become more conscious of what you do. Do you actually think about why you make the choices, decisions, or actions that you do on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis? The truth is, most of us are kind of in a rut, in a sense, of doing actions and behaviors because we've done them and associated with them for so long. Weeks upon months upon years. Some actions we are so ingrained to that we might not even know why we do them until we really start to process it. For instance, I was having a conversation with my girlfriend last night after heading home from Easter dinner. And we were with my family. A lot of people were there. And one of the topic of why I consume the way I consume during events like that. Like, what I mean by this is how much food I usually will go up and eat, or how much I'll keep on a plate, stuff like that. And as I thought about it, I realized why I do the thing I do the way I do it, okay? And this is really, really interesting because here's what I came to the conclusion of. I usually will go and eat a couple times. I'll do usually seconds or thirds, but I never really put a lot of stuff on my plate. And I only put a few key things on my plate. And the reason I found or realized why I do this is because it's something that I've been doing since I was probably 7 to 10 years old. And I've been doing it ever since then, and it's ingrained in my habits and my routines and rituals inside of these environments, right? And so now I came to the conclusion of why I did it. And the reason I do it is because as a child, I would be told that I shouldn't waste food. And because I shouldn't waste food, I would have to sit and eat everything that was on my plate. The other thing I never liked to do was I was very, very specific and particular to the foods that I wanted to eat when I was younger. This meant that I did not like a lot of stuff. And because I didn't like a lot of stuff, I usually would not put a lot of things on my plate. So I wouldn't be adventurous per se of trying new things. And this has led me down the path of doing this same routine for years upon years upon years, right? Every Easter, Christmas, Thanksgiving, all kinds of days and holidays have had the same process. And that process was I barely put anything on my plate, and I only eat a little bit, enough to make sure everybody feels like I had eaten their things, but not enough to where I would have excess food on my plate where I would feel like I had to eat it or felt like I was wasting it, and also enough to where I wasn't putting anything that I did not want on my plate, because the last thing I wanted to do is make someone feel bad about me saying that I did not like their food that they made, right? So I've been running this same process and story and mental decision making before anything actually happens my whole entire life. And because of that, you guys are probably, or you are leading your life the same way. Decisions, actions, and routines are so ingrained in you that you may not even know why you're doing them. But when you realize the reasons behind it, you can change it, right? You can only change things that you know why, right? If you are trying to figure out why or how to get yourself to move to the next step in achieving your goal, or wondering why you continue to make the same bad routine or same habit, right? Maybe every night you stop at McDonald's on the way home and you get an ice cream cone, right? Or maybe you overdrink when you go out and have social outings and you do start to drink alcohol. Maybe you allow stories of being unable to do things run and dictate your life. Maybe you have a story in your head that you have to finish all your food every meal you eat, otherwise it's bad, right? So these are all stories that we've been patterned into believing, and stories and triggers and things that have been so subconsciously driven into us that we don't even know it. However, once you realize why these things are happening, or can take yourself out of the emotional response of these things and look at it from the logical perspective of why is this happening and how did this start happening in the first place, you can then make the corrections and mental mind shifts needed to make it something that you want, right? So for instance, one of the biggest problems we have with our members is that they will routinely overindulge, eat very, very quickly, and eat things that they know they shouldn't. And sometimes when we dig deep into these things, a lot of times it's stories from when they were kids. It's mental things that have been blocking them since they were children, that their parents taught them. For instance, like no wasting food is usually something that's taught in a household when you're very, very young. So you usually will not waste food. This means that this will transition to us as we're older when we are eating a meal and we don't want to waste food. So we eat more than we need to eat because we're so ingrained to thinking that we cannot waste food. This then leads us down the bad spiral and bad effect of continuing to do things that do not lead you down the path that you want. But again, you can't change the path until you realize why you're on this path or what's putting you on this path instead of going the route that you want. So the question for today is, what is going on in your life that is so ingrained that you can deep dive and look into and see why you're doing that? Now, to do this, all you do is step back. You look at your life as a whole and try and pick places in it in which these actions or stories or things were told to you that then have ingrained into your life that have caused you to continue repeating these actions, right? So where in your life are you currently doing actions that have been ingrained in you for a long time that no longer give you what you want? 2, where or how can you shift yourself from taking the old path, the old story, the old thing that you must do, and converting it to a new possibility, a new action that will give you what you want, or a new thought process, right? All it is a thought process, right? Mentally, if you think, oh, I can't waste food because someone could use it, so I'm gonna eat it, that's a bad thought process. Instead, you say, hey, wasting food isn't ideal and I don't really like to do it. So instead I'm going to either cook smaller meals, or I'm going to consume smaller quantities of food, or I'm going to figure out an outlet to get rid of my wasted food. Or, in those rare cases, it is acceptable to throw away food that I'm no longer going to eat, right? So this is a great way of changing your patterns and changing your mental mindset around it. Third question is, where moving forward can you change the story that's been acted upon in recent days, weeks, or even the last month? Where can you change that to give you the trajectory and stories and truth that you want? So again, if I was constantly ingrained to eat all my food because I didn't want to waste it, and I'm still living in that mindset, I could convert it to changing it to something that's more positive based, where it's something like, I don't actually have to consume all this food because this does not set my body in the way that I want. It does not make me feel good, and it really is still wasting food, right? The mental mind shift will change that for you. So what new story can you paint vividly for yourself that will direct you and guide you to the path that you want? So that's it, guys. Try and get yourself out of your own way and out of your own stories and predetermined actions that have been ingrained into you for years and years and years, maybe even decades. Get yourself out of those and start rebuilding and shifting and shaping your life the way that you want. This allows you to build it and truly live the life that gives you fulfillment, enjoyment, and not living off stories that no longer give you what you want.